Hi, in this video we'll be discussing arranged number question. So the question is that you will be given a value of n and let's say n is 5, then you have to fill numbers from 1 to 5 in the array. Now the fashion in which that you have to fill these 5 numbers into the array will be slightly different. So n is 5, that means the size of the array in which you have to fill will also be 5. Right. So you have to fill numbers from 1 to n, 1 to 5. 1 will come at the beginning, 2 at the end. Now 3 at index 1 and then 4 at index 3 and 5 in the middle. So this is the pattern in which you have to fill. Now let's take another example just to have a clear idea. For n equal to 6. So if n is 6, then 1 in the beginning, 2 at the end, 3 from the beginning, 4 from the end, 5 here and 6 here. This is the pattern. So numbers 1 to 6 now, right? So that means the first conclusion that we draw is the value of n that is given, that is the size of the array effectively for us, because we have to fill in n numbers, right? Now we have an array, we have an empty array, and now it's our task that we have to fill in numbers into it, right? So I'm assuming we have the array with us. So now we have to decide that in what particular fashion or order we should fill these values so as to get the desired output. This is actually 5. Seems like more like 6, but this is 5. Okay. Right. So I could at least think of 2 approaches to do this. There can be many, but let's discuss what I have in mind. So first approach at least that I could think of is, see, if you see the pattern, 1 3 5 here, 1 3 5 here, right? So first half of the array has all the odd elements, I should say alternate odd elements, 1 3 5, and had the size been more, had the size been 6, next element would have been 7, right? So first half of the element has all odd elements starting from 1, because obviously we are placing 1 here, then 2 is at the end, then 3 from the beginning, 4 from the end, right? This is the fashion that we are following. And the next half has even elements, right? So we can do it in two halves. First focus on the first half and fill all the odd elements starting from 1, and then focus on the second half and then fill in all the even elements, right? So if you fill even elements in this direction, then they'll be in a descending order, 6 4 2. If you fill in this direction starting from last element to the mid element, then they'll be in ascending fashion starting from 2. It's up to you. It's up to you to decide what pattern to follow, right? So that's completely up to you. Okay. So now let's just discuss this approach a little bit more. So first value, if I'm first talking about all the odd elements, right? So starting from index 0, this is the index value. I have to start filling at index 0. What number I have to fill in at this index, I'm keeping it in value. So initially at index 0 I have to fill 1. After 1 I should increase this value by 2, it should be 3, and increase index by 1. At index 1 I'll fill 3, right? Next value to be filled will be 5, index will be 2. At index 2 I should fill 5 and so on, right? Now what will be the last index? So if you see, if n is 5, then there are 3 odd elements, 2 even elements. If n is 6, the count of even and odd, I should say, is equal, right? So they're both 3. It's both equal. So how to decide? Shall I write n by 2 here, n by 2 odd elements and n by 2 even elements, or I should say which index I should go to? So that should be n by 2 here. So in this case, the index at least till which I have to 0 1 2 3 4 5 0 1 2 3 4 5, the index till which I have to go. So in this case n by 2 does fit. So 5 basically I should say is the number. So 5 by 2 will be 2, right? So I have to go till index 2, right? So that's perfectly okay. Now if I write down the similar thing here, 6 by 2 this time will be 3, but I have to fill in only till index 2 and not till index 3, right? So what should be the formula? What should be the formula for the index till which I have to fill? What is the last index that I have to fill in this fashion? So I just have to find a number. I think n minus 1 by 2 will be the right thing to find out. So let's apply it here. N minus 1, n is 5, 5 minus 1 will be 4, 4 by 2 is 2, so you have to go till index 2. Now if n is 6, that's even number, 6 minus 1 is 5, 5 by 2 is 2, so you have to go to index 2. So now this obviously is incorrect. So n minus 1 by 2 is the last index, I should say, in the odd sequence which I have to fill. Right. So the first even element that I have to fill in will be n minus 1 by 2 plus 1. So just after that, right? So if I am filling the even elements in descending order, so the first start value in case of even elements. So in this case, if n is 5, the first value that I have to start with is 4, right? But if n is 6, the first value that I have to start with is n itself, 6 itself. So I hope you are able to notice the difference. So when is 5, the first value that I have to start with is 4, 1 less than 5 I should say. If n is 6, the first value that I have to start decreasing with is 6 itself. So in case of odd elements, n is odd, that means there are odd elements, so there will be 3, or I should say 1 odd element more than the number of even elements. So the first even value that you have to start with will be 1 less than n. So if n is odd, then the first even value will be n minus 1. If n is even, then the first decreasing even value that I have to start with will be n itself. So I hope you can take care of it. So try writing the code which is precise as well. So don't create complete separate cases for even and odd. Just try writing, deciding the start value. Just check if n is even or odd. So if n is even, then the start value will be different. If n is odd, start value will be different. Right? So this is the first approach to do it. I hope you are clear with it. Fill first half of odd elements, second half of even elements, and you should do. Now let's discuss another approach of solving it. So the second approach that I am talking about is actually exactly same, similar to the fashion in which I was actually filling the array when I was describing the question. So 1 here, 2 at the end, 3 here, 4 from the end, 5 here, 6 from the end, right? This was what we were talking about. So let's fill in the array in the exact same pattern. So I have the array with me, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, size 6 array, right? Now I'll keep a variable value, just similar to what I did in the first approach, to decide what is the value that I have to fill in. And I'll keep indices. Now there will be 2 indices, I should say. Instead of I and j, let's call them start and end. So one index start and other index is end. See, the first number 1 should be placed at the start, right? The number just greater than 1, which is 2, next to 1 I should say, should be placed at the end. Then 3 should come should be filled in from the start, and 4 should be filled from the end. This is what the fashion is. So start will keep track of the starting index at which I have to fill in the number, and end will keep track of the last index at which I have to fill in the number. So the first starting index is 0, right? And the first ending index in this case is 5, or in general it will be n minus 1 if n is the size of the array. Right, so value is 1, right? So initially the pattern will be at start index place value, right? So place 1. Now you have placed 1, so next number to be filled in should be 2, so increase value by 1, value plus plus. Now at end index place value again, because 2 should be placed at the end now. Now after placing 2, next number to be placed is 3, so increase value by 1. Now you have placed an element at the start index, you have placed an element at the end index. Next element should come here, next element from the end should come here. So start index plus plus and end index minus minus. So I'm moving or changing my start and end accordingly as well. So you have initially start was 0, end was the last index, and you have placed them, and place value accordingly increase